Welcome to Dental Unscripted, where Mike Dinzio and Paula Quinn break down the practice ownership journey, one episode at a time. Starting up, buying, and running a successful dental practice.
All right, guys. Welcome back to another great episode of Dental Unscripted. We are in the middle of Shark Week. It is here again, back again, the third year in a row. We may have missed last year. I don't know. It was a crazy year, but we did Kids Week last year. So yeah, this is the third Shark Week, and I'm super pumped because this whole week has been epic. Knowledgeable, amazing general contractors that specialize in dental, and boy, do they know a lot more than I do about the topic. And I'm excited because we're getting an opportunity to bring Steve Anderson back on the program. This is his second, I will say, his second time being on the program. And Steve Anderson is with Denco. You might know him from his book, where we'll put a plug and a link down below if you want to pick up his book. It's an excellent book. Steve, welcome back to the program, my friend. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. I threw Steve a curveball. This was actually scheduled 4 hours from now, but Steve was able to jump on. So he's just ready to go at any moment of time, which is something that I love. Steve, tell me a little bit about Denco and you and your philosophy, because you and I get into a lot of conversations about the business of dentistry. You and I end up talking a lot more about just hammers and nails. You know, we talk about the business of dentistry and being a good leader and how to do this right. But like, tell us a little bit about Steve and Denco and what you guys are all about over there in Arizona. That's where Steve is primarily out of. I don't think he's Steve, do you do stuff outside of Arizona? I don't think so. Right?
No, just Arizona.
Yeah. So give us your a little plug about Denco and your company and you.
Steve Anderson, been doing this just dental since 1997, and so we're coming up. Gosh, I hate to do the math, but that's a lot of years.
It is.
And, but we sure have enjoyed it. We've completed over 1,000 design build offices. And the fun thing is helping people make better choices. And that's really the premise of everything we do. Is when I first was looking for what do I do better and how can I be a better resource, driving to work one morning, and at that point, I was doing everything. And I shortly realized that in that short 15-minute drive that there was a big need in the dental market. And I became Denco Dental Construction. And I ended up getting rid of all the other clients and really started focusing. And quickly found that there's a lot of specialists out there that sell their Kool-Aid, but they take the client and try to put the client into their Kool-Aid box and make it work for them, rather than basically finding out what's important to the dentist, what the dentist is about and who they are and how unique they are, and making their experience and making everything about them instead. And that's kind of where I took off.
Yeah. So Steve, like, because you have so many years of doing this, like, how have things changed? I'm just curious. I haven't asked anybody else this question this week. Like, how have things changed over this? We were kind of just talking about how the world has totally changed. I can't even imagine how your world has changed over again, can't do the math.
Well, first we're talking about, the Walmart mentality, and then, how everyone wants it cheaper. And then we're talking about the Amazon vibe, where you want it faster. And then we're talking about COVID and how dentists for a short time stuck their head in the sand and didn't want to even try anything. And when instead they should have been invested in themselves. And now we have a new market. The new market is the operatories look different, and the hallways look different, and the how people are greeted. It was interesting, and when COVID happened, all of a sudden dentists started realizing I don't need a waiting room that big, because all of a sudden they had to get real creative, and then they also had to do better scheduling.
I couldn't agree more. It's one of the very first things that me as a consultant looks at is the front office and the waiting room. Nobody's waiting anymore. Like, if people are waiting, what are you doing in the back keeping people waiting? Unless you're a Medicaid office that has a whole family sitting out in the front.
Yeah.
Like, it's a huge waiting room. You're exactly right.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting. We had an office, and we were just finishing it right before COVID, and they went on and just knocked it dead. But the biggest thing she said when I went and did a 1-year review, she says, I wish I put another operatory if I didn't have this damn big waiting room, and I could have done more production. And it was just a great mindset for me. But also, it's interesting, over the years, I've seen where the operatories went from 2 sinks in every operatory down to 1, to a T-wall, to now that's just a sink out in the hallway and no sinks in the operatories and no cabinets on the side of the operatories as the common denominator, no overhead ceiling post lights or track lights, and
I know
using their loops. I mean, it's changed dramatically.
Even the X-rays, the X-rays on the wall.
Yeah.
I love this. So guys, like, as you can tell, Steve gets really into the design piece, and this is exactly where I wanted to take this episode, because we've had this whole discussion about this whole week about design build versus bid and all the things, and the overwhelming way of doing it. And today, as I interview the top contractors in the country, is a design build / design assist, where you, the contractor, has either in-house or partnering up with a designer out-house, and you guys collaborate and make a deal happen, make a budget happen, get creative with budgets and all the things. And anyways, one of the best things about Steve and Denco Construction is their ability to really dig in and start thinking about workflow and the design element. I had Steve actually on one of my clients not too long ago, and he was giving more feedback than the architect was. And I'm like, dude, that the roles are kind of reversed here. So Steve, let's get into some of the design and like how you collaborate and how you get a doctor from, here's a shell or a cold shell, warm shell. How do we go from that to submit plans? And what's your part in it as a GC? What's your part in that process? That's the question.
Well, I find what works best for myself and our clients is to get involved early, and a lot of times even before the architect gets involved. And the reason being is asking those questions that usually don't get asked. It's the old adage of you don't know what you don't know, and a lot of dentists don't know what to say or what to do. And a lot of times I've seen plans developed literally by, they had the square footage, so they just draw something, and then the dentist doesn't have a clue what they're looking at, and they're going, well, that's the architect, so he knows what he's doing, and they sign off on it and go to work. And I've literally had that happen a number of years ago. One that really sticks in my mind was a client over in Mesa, and he had a dentist that was going to be bigger than him coming in partnership with him, and he was going to build out 6 more ops. But he goes, here's my plans, they're permitted, let's go to work. And I said, time out. I said, let's talk about who you are, what's your agenda, what's going on, what's driving this need for expansion. Yeah. And then, can I look at your office? And I looked at his office, came back, sat down, and I go, you probably hate your operatories. And his mouth dropped, and he says, well, how do you know? And he says, well, it's so tight at the head wall. You got lots of length, but you have your utilities were set in such a way. And I remember this from 10 years prior. You hired this professional, and you got less than 2 feet at the head wall. between the head it was like 18 inches. And I said, you always have to turn your chairs, don't you? And he says, I hate it. And I said, rolled out the plans, and 6 more ops exactly the same.
Oh my gosh.
And I
serious?
said, you know.
Hey guys, Mike Dencio here with Dental Unscripted. Just reminding you guys that, hey, the full episode is over at Dental Unscripted. You might be listening and actively listening to our other channels, but I want to make sure you get over to our new channel that we're condensing and consolidating everything into. It's called Dental Unscripted. You can catch on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever you're into. But I don't want you to miss any future releases. It's super important that you subscribe. So check that out right now. The entire vision of Dental Unscripted is to bring you guys practice management tips, along with what we've been putting out, the startup and acquisition tips. We're now getting a lot of you guys that own practices, and there's a lot to tell you guys about as it relates to owning and running and managing your first time owning a practice. So again, thank you so much for being a part of the program. I've been doing this, since COVID, almost 5 years now, and we love it. It's a passion of ours. We feel like it's a way for us to give back. And anyways, I would hate for you guys to miss out on any future episodes. So if you're into this episode and don't want to miss any others, jump over to Dental Unscripted, and we'll see you over there. All right, guys, take care. Bye-bye.